Hello, welcome to the Life of a Marketer podcast. And today I've got Keith Aisner. Keith has his hands in some different projects right now. In particular, he's a marketing director of Whole Foods, is it? Yeah, I'm happy to have him on the podcast today. So I'm just going to let him kind of take over here and explain a little bit more about what he does. So, Keith, tell us a little bit about yourself and especially tell us about what it is you're doing at work and kind of what your role is as chief of marketing.
Sure. So I've been involved in marketing for better part of about 25 years. I started out doing it in Juneau, Alaska, where I was in a business that was developing these new things called cell phones and offering those along with pagers and satellite phones. And then kind of got fascinated with that. I loved the marketing angle. I loved the storytelling aspect because I'm a writer. I'm also a published playwright. And for me, marketing is storytelling. Good marketing is telling the best story. And after that, I got involved largely in the wine industry down in Northern California, helped develop and build wine brands. I kept expanding my experience from just doing standardized marketing to, and ad buying into design, commercials, directing, photography, a lot of that stuff. Had my own shingle for a while, largely doing wine-oriented branding and marketing. And then I got kind of hijacked for a bit to to be the marketing director for an auto group. And then from there, I was brought up to Portland, Oregon, where I'm currently living, and helped to develop a cannabis co-packing business as their vice president of marketing. And that business is since sold. I then went on to have a restaurant that I developed, and now I am moving that into more of a food production space. And in the meantime, I am the marketing director for World Foods, which is a unique boutique grocery chain here in Portland.
Oh, wow, awesome. And so how many different sites do you guys have for that chain?
So right now, there is a restaurant that is part of it. It's also the commissary that supplies. And then there's two different grocery stores here in Portland, and they're bringing me in because they're ready to grow. So I'm developing a plan to start opening additional stores within the next 2 years.
Oh, fascinating. Very interesting. All right. Thanks so much for sharing that. You've got quite an interesting background. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from you. 25 years in marketing.
Short attention span, Jared. It's just a short attention span. I'm cursed with it.
Yeah, that's 25 years though. So you've seen it all. You've seen the evolution of all of the craziness that there is today. So what's the best part of being in the marketing industry?
If you're doing it right, you're helping businesses that deserve to grow and succeed. If you're doing it right, you're making a good business better. And you're doing that because you're being true to the brand, and you are making sure that there's a good product that's being sold well, that is improving the lives of the people who are buying it.
Yeah, and that brings a lot of satisfaction for you.
It absolutely. If you're just in this to make money, you can do that. Goodness knows it's marketing. There's a lot of people who do that. But I've been doing it so long, it's not just about the money anymore. I want to be helping. There's a lot of legitimately good businesses out there that need smart, insightful, competent marketing. That's not what I typically see out in the wild. So for me, I took this gig, even though it's actually not as good paying as what I could be, because I see the potential, and the people who own this business are really good people. And their customers are loyal to these businesses because they love the business. And when you're doing something that's out of love, then you still need to know your stuff, right? You still need to understand the basic concepts of marketing, why you're doing what you're doing, the order in which you're doing things, budgetary, keeping things specific, all that. But if you're doing it because there's an element of love doing it, your love for the business, your love for the product, your love for the for marketing as a whole, then it's going to raise your game and you're going to do a better job at it. If you're just strictly in it for the money, where's your loyalty? Why do you really care? I mean, you can make a lot of money and create and just crank out product, even on the marketing side. And there's a lot of people who do it, but I find that soulless and it's not rewarding.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people talking now a lot about bro marketing, just trying to
Yeah.
you're only one funnel away and all that stuff, and it's really a lot trickier than that, and it's a lot more complex than just something like that. So what advice do you have for
Well,
those of us that are?
Jared, the question you have to start asking, the question you have to start asking, Jared, is at what point is it marketing, and then at what point does that become a con? Are you really selling something that you believe in? Are you really selling something that matters, or are you doing this simply because there's a check at the end of it for you? And
Right.
not saying that people don't have integrity about it, but that's when you're talking about bro marketing and all this. I kind of call it impulse marketing in a sense. It's like the same thing for when you're walking out the grocery aisle, right? All those impulse buy stuff. And none of it, they don't want you to think that hard. They just want you to buy. So they're gonna make things as bright and shiny as they possibly can. They're going to hit on everything that gives you a trigger. They're going to hit on the fear aspect. They're going to try and make it sexy. They're going to make you feel like you're less than if you don't buy it, as opposed to saying that you're better for buying it. So there's a lot of different tactics you can use in those regards, but all of it's, evil, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I would definitely say that a lot of it's evil. I wouldn't say all of that is evil, but there is definitely manipulation and that kind of thing that goes on.
Right.
So what kind of advice for those of us in the marketing industry, what kind of advice do you have for us working in the marketing industry?
The first thing I would say, and it's bottom line really for any profession, know your stuff and don't assume that you know all of it. I'm learning. Like I said, I've been doing this over 25 years. I still learn, especially right now. Marketing is an incredibly dynamic field and it's technology dependent, as much of it is. If you're talking about the information age in which we are living in, what is marketing other than information? It's how you're packaging the information. It's how you're delivering the information. It's how you're parsing the information. All that stuff goes into it, right? So everything is going to be constantly shifting because our technological space in which this information is being delivered is constantly shifting. So know your stuff, know your fundamentals. And it's not like the college stuff. It's not like understanding, you don't need an MBA. What you need to understand is the psychology underneath marketing, and then understand the mechanisms by which the marketing is being delivered. So if you're getting into these habits, and I've had a lot of people where they apply some system that the specific, they basically put everything through the same machine. You know what I'm talking about? Here's our product. How do we market it? Well, here's this subsection. Here's this subsection. Here's how we optimize for our SEO. Here's how we're building our presence in social media. This is how we want to build out our Instagram account. This is how we want to get into radio or billboard, even going the old school stuff. You got to know all those fundamental things first, and you have to understand the mechanisms by which they live. And then at that point, then you can start to relearn things.
All right. So one final question that we always make for fun. What is the oldest piece of technology that you remember using?
Oldest piece of technology? Probably when I was programming on a Commodore 64 in BASIC. That's when I was a kid. And when you were a little kid, and computers first came out in the late 70s and 80s, they became personal computers. I've been a video game fan since I was a little kid. I had a paper route so I could buy my first Atari 2600. And so the idea of being able to build a video game in BASIC was just like mind blowing. So you could buy these magazines. They were like this thick, right? And you could find a game in there. They would actually write the code out in the magazine, and you could find these really cool games that you'd want to play, and you'd literally program the computer in BASIC in order to play that game. And inevitably there were pages, and there are pages and pages, and there are small lines, and there's numbers and symbols, and inevitably you'd get something wrong and it wouldn't work, and you'd have to spend ages just trying to figure out what went wrong, and you'd spend more time trying to find the little error than you would actually playing the game, which inevitably wasn't that great in the first place because it was in BASIC.
Right. Yeah. We actually had someone who mentioned the same thing as you, the Commodore, that they were so excited when they had got one with their neighbor. How things, man, they've totally just changed. Now they've got, like a little thing this big, and it's way more complicated than that entire game.
Yeah. I feel so old every day. But that's okay. It's that's the thing. It's amazing. These are miraculous times. That's a great question to ask, because it makes you really seriously consider just how far we've come in such a short amount of time. And honestly, that's a really big point in marketing as well, when you understand demographics. One thing I'll leave you with is, when you think about the generation, say 150 years ago, right? What was the difference in lifestyles between generations? Not too different, right? Going back even before then, what was the difference? Well, someone had a new tool. Someone, maybe it's the invention of the telegraph. That was like crazy at the time. You look now, inventions and technology are developing so quickly that you're having sub-generations with major differences in how they communicate and the language that they use. Just go to Discord and look at what the kids are saying on Discord. Discord is an absolutely amazing marketing tool. And look what how they speak to each other. It's a foreign freaking language. And here we are trying, try to figure that out. And that's just in 20 years. So what you're seeing is the technology that is advancing at such a rapid pace that the older generations have less and less in common with the younger generations because of how they're communicating through that technology. So bear that in mind when you're putting together your marketing. Understanding your demographics and your psychographics and how those things are being addressed through technology should tell you how you should spend your dollars.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, Keith, we try to keep our podcast short. I think I could sit here and talk to you for a lot longer and
I appreciate
record it. But thanks for hopping on our podcast. Really appreciate it. This is the Life of a Marketer podcast, and we release this on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We stream it at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. If not, we release it on YouTube at the same times, so you can catch the interview there. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe.